Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 200 and something of Decoded. But in the show, we're speaking with some recruiting and talent leaders about the future of AI, technology, and a few other things in between. You all know who I am, but I'd love our guests to introduce each other. Matt, could you give us a quick intro if you'd be so kind?
Yeah, I'm Matt. I am returning. I think this is my second go here on this with you, Alfie. 15 or so years in recruiting leadership, all in the tech industry. I've mostly been in companies when they've been in their high growth, hyper growth phases, especially when they get at the precipice of growth. So it's quite fun to be in the environments of people that are like, oh my God, we need to grow really quick. How do we scale things really rapidly? So really enjoyed being in that spot. And yeah, I'm obviously American, so I moved to England about 10 years ago. So officially a British citizen, my passport and all now. Thank you very much. But yeah, I'm very interested right now, and most of my focus is deep in the AI space of recruitment, and actually figuring out what this all means for us and for our trade, and what things are going to look like next for how we work between human and machine.
Yes, that's definitely the way forward, right? And could you just be so kind just to name some of the places you've worked? Because you've worked for some amazing companies over the years. Just give me a bullet point list, just on
Yeah,
our
so
viewers.
so I started way back in the day at Monster.com, back when they were very strong brands in the US. I was at Mimecast after that during their initial scaling evolution, just post IPO. Spent some time at Facebook and Meta, doing their UK and European build outs, and then also did a similar thing at Amazon as well, scaling EMEA for the consumer part of the organization. Um, Ended up at Deliveroo, leading their tech recruitment for a while, for about 3 years. Really focused on building and geolocation strategy that we had. So like, how do we scale outside London? Then most recently, I've been at Nebius, AI infrastructure company, during their incredible hypergrowth phase that they just went into. Currently looking at actually some interesting things I'm going to be doing next that I might tease in the next 30 minutes as well.
Awesome. Thank you, mate. Arton, would you be so kind to give us a bit of context?
I'm not sure you want me to after that. That's Jesus Christ. Okay. Yeah. My name's Ayrton. I am a recruiter. Have been for 8 years in the EV charging space. I launched my own company a couple of years ago, AIM Recruitment. Again, focusing on just US EV charging. And this year, I've launched another product called Red Sun Platform, which is designed solely to help recruitment agencies market themselves better. I could dive a lot into it, but long story short is it's AI focused, SEO, AEO, conversion optimized. It's around your web presence. But yeah, I love AI. It's made someone as simple as me seem intelligent to many people, so it's very, very useful. And yeah, to be honest, my entire recruitment model is built around it. So yeah, interesting to jump on this one.
Awesome. I think we all share the same belief that humans and AI, as you said, Matt, is really the path forward, at least for now, in terms of what we can see the future holds. There's so many elements of helping somebody secure a job or helping a company find a person, which involves a large amount of empathy and human to human connections and those relationship building skills, which AI just can't do for now anyway. We'll see what happens in the next few years, but certainly for now, every hiring manager, every recruiter, every talent person that I speak to, they share this sentiment that AI will allow us to work 10 times faster, source better candidates, screen them better, hire the best people, but there still will always be that need, more than ever needed before, for the person to manage the agents and kind of be in charge of that process. But that's my belief. We'll find out if you guys share that or if you have a completely different point of view. All good either way. Matt, would you be so kind? Just tell me what your view is on AI and hiring, maybe any tools that you're using at the moment, just whatever you like. Just give us a bit of an insight into your experience in that world.
Yeah, I don't know if it was you I was speaking to 2 years ago about this, but I remember I was on a podcast 2 years ago, and I kind of said, like, I'm not really sure AI is ready yet, because a couple of years ago you had MetaView, you had Good Time, you had Ashby coming up, right? And like, these were your core platforms for AI back then. You had maybe ChatGPT, I don't remember what it was, maybe 3 or 4. And to be honest, it was kind of question and answer. That's it. Or it's kind of, it's like a light co-pilot. That's all it kind of was. Or, hey, in my mind, it was automation. It wasn't AI. Like most of the tools 2 years ago were automated. So I was like, not ready yet. Obviously now there's been, massive leaps in development. A lot of that's due to, the mass amount of GPU capacity that's launched. Obviously, Nebius has been a company has been doing a lot of work in that space. So, additional GPU capacity has allowed for more learning modeling and capacity actually for us to build the models to actually then deliver AI. So like there's been leaps and bounds of movement in that front. And now it's moved past that to, sourcing. When you look at Gem or Juicebox or Covey, these tools that can actually physically do programmatic style SEO, as in like you were talking about outreach to candidates, it does it on your behalf relatively easy, can provide the drip marketing campaign, so forth and so on. Now you have tooling that can do AI screening, right? And so like, some are good, some are not, but like you do have some technology that can do that. So that's a good space to look into. And then obviously your note-taking tools, which, look at a MetaView or BrightHire 2 years ago, it was just a note-taking tool. Now they're branching into AI reporting, some level of sourcing, CV overview capacity, stack ranking, things like that. So you're getting a lot more of these benefits in. And then getting past that envelope now to compensation modeling, compensation planning, and then at the front end of the process, headcount planning, and really building a strong workforce planning model. We're starting to see tools, Timo HANA, Headcount 365, that are building towards that. But I think there's a ton of really good AI tools that I could probably name 15 to 20 that I've demoed or I've looked at or I've been involved at over the last, probably 6 to 8 months, right at this point, really, which are all amazing. But my biggest bugbear from an industry perspective is that everything's standalone. Now, obviously, there's a lot of great integrations you can do to plug it into your ATS, but my biggest concern when it comes to AI tooling collectively is you're going to have tool exhaustion for recruiters, and you're going to start getting degrading value out of these tools at some point, because now you could give a recruiter 20 tools and they're going to use 2 of them, and then now all of a sudden, you're not getting the value out of them. So for me, like that's the biggest thing that's kind of weighing on me is, the lack of singularity or platforming of these tools, because they're trying to operate within their own capacity rather than in a partnership model with some of the ATSs, so that you can create that, central platform, that's your repository that spiders out into all this other technology. And you mentioned something about like, I don't know, context or human emotion. There's even like on a venture that, I'm not going to go into details about because we're not ready to communicate it deeply externally yet, but, I'm working with some partners that are going down a track to figure out how to platform this type of technology, so instead of having multiple tools, you're actually speaking to one tool that's then can communicate with multiple tools to then produce this result. Now, this is TA, this is HR, this is finance, this is legal compliance, things like that, to plug into Series A, B, and C founders that, probably are spending a lot of money without the right infrastructure to be successful. What if you could give them FANG level infrastructure at a Series A company, and they could turn that investment that they're getting into revenue faster? And so with that, like there's even tools out there that I know of that I've spoken to the co-founders about, which they actually use your video camera. They could use your Apple Watch. They could use whatever wearable you have. It can track emotion. It can track intent. It can track micro expressions, and then you're getting to away from just proctoring, which is what most of the tools focus on, is proctoring score, which is really like, I'm looking at the screen, I'm looking at this screen, I'm looking at this screen. And that's kind of the net of what it does, or like tab switching. It goes from proctoring to trust and integrity, which then becomes more powerful, not just from an interview perspective, but also from, if you're a leader and you're struggling to get, your team motivated and moving, like you can start building these trust, integrity, and connection scores to see like, am I actually effective at building, this quorum with my team in this remote world we live in today. So we're not far from this. I think the main challenge that we have today is that because the tools are all so disparate, you still need a large human audience to actually produce the results still and actually make the tools effective. And I think we're a few years off from being able to go from that to a more AI-driven architecture.
This is a quick message to tell you about my company, Alpha AI. We built Lisa, the world's first AI recruiter, who finds candidates for you on autopilot. Visit welovealpha.com now to learn how it works, or click the link below in the description. And now, back to the episode. Every time I look at the landscape, I feel like I have to do a Frankenstein job to string everything together and kind of connect it. And for a long time, I struggled to find something that was like an end-to-end agentic tool. I won't start plugging my own stuff now, but that's what we're trying to build. Arden, what's your point of view on AI and hiring? You're building in this space. You're building, landing pages, tools, websites for people that are doing this job. What have you found is working? What's not working? What tools are you excited about? Just give us, a brain dump if you could, please.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it from an individual recruiter level, so I am trying to win roles and fill roles. That's my job day to day. Or if you're internal, just fill roles. Not to say that's easier, because I know it's not. But it's all about, what do you do? What is your actual workflow? Map that whole thing out, and everything you don't actually need to do, don't do it. There is a tool to fix it. And I appreciate what you're saying about, the kind of sporadic nature where, okay, I use this CRM, so I have to use this AI platform, but it's not as good at this, so I'm going to use this one to feed into that. You can find yourself in a bit of a jungle with not quite sure what the best route is. But what I've found is, if you just automate as much as you can in terms of your normal day, your life just becomes so much easier. So I don't know if we're allowed to mention brand names too much, but I mean, I use Atlas CRM for my recruitment agency. It's AI centric. All I have to do is make the phone calls. Great. I'm a very, very simple man. I can't do any more than that. I'm good on the phone, but nothing else. So great. I don't have to do anything else. In terms of Redsun and what we're doing there, I mean, again, it's the same thing. You use the right tool for the right moment, which, has taken a lot of research and understanding the limitations of different aspects. So if you want to code, you want to develop, use Claude. If you want copywriting and analysis, ChatGPT is probably one of the better ones. But if you want depth research, you got to use Perplexity. If you want visuals, Gemini, something like that. It's a challenge getting all of that knowledge before going and building something that's useful. So, I mean, my advice personally is ask AI what you want AI to do, because that's the easiest way to build the simplest workflow. When I set up AIM recruitment, after about 6 months,
outsource your thinking, right? Like, do it I ask the AI how it could be better. It's such a simple thing to say, but it's so true. Like, yeah, sometimes it just knows the answer.
Oh, it's crazy, because all it can go off is the context you give it in the first place. So if I ask a question and I get an answer, and I'm thinking, well, that answer kind of sucks, but I ask a follow-up question, it's using the context of the first question. The more context you give it, the better it gets. So when we're building websites for people, we build a full website, SEO optimized, research driven, sector specific, recruitment detailed in about 2 minutes flat. But the reason we can do all of that is not because AI is amazing. It's because I've spent, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
You can go crazy. You can plug stuff. You can do whatever
Alfie,
you want.
that's dangerous, mate. You shouldn't tell me that. I have spent fucking ages tailoring the AI to do exactly that.
Sure.
Now, don't get me wrong. It's not my LLM. I've not got GPUs and millions and billions in the bank to do that. But you can take any AI system, doesn't matter what it is, and you can make it as suitable to your needs as you need it to be. And then tools kind of don't matter that much. Now, like I said, we've all got limitations. We've all got, okay, this CRM connects intrinsically with Claude or ChatGPT or whatever that is. Yeah, that is a benefit. But with time and understanding of what your actual workflow is, you can make that happen across any. And I think from a tooling perspective and from kind of AI in recruitment perspective, but one thing that AI will never, ever be able to do, and I don't care how far we get, is assess how someone really feels when you ask them, so what's prompting you to leave? Or why have you taken my call today? Or what do you think about that offer? Like, these are questions that are deeply personal answers. I don't think you'll ever be able to replace that part of a recruiter. The rest of it, I've already replaced it. And I'm not the only one. It's happening all the time. Just need to kind of try and channel that, get more people understanding what you can actually do with this stuff, especially in the recruitment space, because I think recruiters are very, I'm going to go on a tangent here. I can feel it. They're very, very like boxed in the sense of the recruitment world is the recruitment world. What works in this world works, but we don't think about how other industries operate or how other service-driven industries may have success. That's why, I mean, AEO, SEO, I'm not going to bore you about it all, because quite frankly, you haven't got the time and I could just go. But in terms of like what we're specifically trying to achieve, which is making recruiters more effective, more efficient, and being able to drive better values for their clients, for their candidates, and obviously revenue for the agency owner, if that's you that way inclined, great. I am, so that's kind of why I do it. But in terms of all that stuff, just strip down your workflows, find out, okay, what is my job? What do I do? What steps do I take on a daily basis when I turn on my laptop in the morning to when I close it off? And then think, how much of that can I not do? And then find a plan from there.
Is a lot, right? Like my process used to be, hey, look at everything. What can I eliminate? And then what can I delegate? But now I've added this third thing, which is what can I eliminate? What can I automate? And what can I delegate? And more of the stuff is going into automate, thankfully. Using all of these amazing tools that you've mentioned. I loved your point around, hey, look, these tools out there, the Claude, Lovable, whatever, it seems like magic, but unless you're fine tuning it, unless you're uploading your context, giving it your specific knowledge base, then it can feel just like the same stuff and like slop, which is why that intuition and that vibe and that taste is so important. Let me ask you both around the practical reality of using some of this stuff. So everyone's talking about AI right now. If you go anywhere, it's all everyone's saying, but there's a very, very small number of people actually properly building with it and using it, and it's not just kind of what they see on social media. In terms of like specific ways that you both have used some of this new tech that's been released in the past year for sourcing, for managing jobs, for helping with candidates, are there any specific, you can say tools, you can say what you did, you can say the process, but are there any specific manual, tedious, repetitive activities which you used to do, which you've now started to automate and free up using AI and agents?
I think you'll like this. I mean, anything. This sounds so stupid, but especially with Claude Cowork, I don't know if you've used it, but you can literally make it do anything. So, I mean, just yesterday, Redson's quite an early company. Like we're looking for funding. We're doing a few other bits and bobs, but it's really early days. So I was literally setting up a HubSpot account yesterday, and I'm thinking, right, this CRM, there's so much. I've never used HubSpot, or I used it a very long time ago. There's so much to look at. There's so much to do. It's a blank canvas, but I've got months of backlogged information about my company that I'm building, the product. In fact, the entire damn code base within some AI platform that knows everything. So no, I'm not doing that. Just quick prompts into Claude, build out my entire HubSpot campaign. All right, done. My brand kit's in there. The tone of voice is transferred. Everything is done. And I could just go and do something else. Like that
works perfect for this, right? Because it's like computer use for and you don't really need to be technical to understand it. Like,
oh no,
I started with Cowork. I've got an open Claw and a Mac Mini on my desk, and that's what I use to kind of at any given time. I feel like I'm wasting time if I don't have an agent running doing an activity. So at any time, I've always got a bunch. I got a bunch personally, but then we have thousands for my company, sourcing and screening and interviewing candidates and that sort of thing all the time. But what about yourself, Matt? Is there anything specific like HubSpot, great example. No one wants to manually fill up a CRM when you can now just tell Claude, click a button and it will do it for you. Is there anything specifically you're doing, whether that's computer use, whether that's some of these AI tools that you mentioned earlier? If you had to name one or two things, what would they be?
I think you should, I think like from a leadership perspective, right? It's like you have to take a huge step back, right? Because you're going to get bombarded with vendors reaching out ad nauseum, like, look at this, and they're all great shiny objects. You demo them, they're fantastic. Like, I haven't come across many tools that I was like, ineffective, it's not going to work, right? Because like everything's built with AI, so it's going to have some degree of success. So I think it's about like really understanding, you know, what are you actually trying to solve for in a company, right? So you're trying to scale a company, you're trying to double headcount, whatever you're trying to do. Like, what is the core issues that you're trying to solve for? And so, you know, for me, you know, again, plugging Claude Cowork or an OpenClaw, you know, so because like I like ChatGPT, but it's really not great for business functionality like anymore. It just isn't. And so, you know, but MCP servers, like, they're relatively easy to build. They're going to automatically give you that API connection between tools. From there, then now you don't have to be a prompt engineer to figure out like what are your red flags and gaps. And then it's quite easy questioning to then state like, you know, what part of the recruitment process, you know, would be make the most sense to automate, like obviously scheduling or note taking, you know, those are like the low hanging fruit. But then, you know, you have 150,000 applicants monthly and you're hiring 180 people a month. Okay, how many of those are good candidates that are not being even assessed because you're moving that quickly and then you're never going back to them, right? And so that's when an AI agent can come in, it can help stack rank them. From there, you can have an AI tool, like a Tenzo AI, as an example, that can do that video screening because, you know, let's say Tenzo is an example. You can sit with the manager, you can do an intake form with the note taker on. From that, it's going to build the screening questions. Now you're done as a recruiter. That's it. You let that agent go loose on your applicants. You know, for the ones that you get the notes back, they say this, the proctoring score and the scoring of whether they're effective or like close enough to the profile or not. It's great. Good. Now you do what Artin says, which is you come back and then you do the actual human cell. You know, so it's kind of taking the responsibility of like, let's call it technical screening away from the recruiters, because I don't want to be crass like this because I have been in recruiting 20 years now, and I think this the actual cell the skill sets of recruiters actually being able to quantify if somebody can do the job versus are they a fit for a job are totally different now than they were 20 years ago. Like if you were an engineering recruiter 20 years ago, you needed to know engineering, you know, and back then it was like C#, Java, C++, like all this stuff. And it's like, you had to actually physically know engineering to hire. In sales, you need to know the sales process, how they operated in that. Now recruiters don't know that, right? They're guessing as much as everybody else is. And so I know. So now you're actually getting more accurate results in line with what the manager wants through tooling. So that's going to solve a big problem. But then look at some of the complex issues, you know, like another tool, Complete AI. You know, how do you know what to pay somebody? You know, usually it's, oh, here's a Radford survey. Yeah, but the market says this, Radford said this, our ranges said this, especially in the AI space where people are, God knows what people are paying. It's ridiculous, right? And so like, how do you then quantify what that is? Well, then now there's tools like Complete AI that can pull Radford information, can pull your market information from like a meta view. It can say like, you know, potentially here's a calculator to say this is the best relevant offer that you could give based on market analysis, Radford, etc. And so you're kind of removing, I don't want to say the thinking out of it because that sounds rude. It's about like removing the areas of your process that are high risk. Because in my mind, and I believe this the entire time I've been in recruitment, everything that we do, every new process we set up, every new tool that we utilize should be a future predictor of success, right? So whether that's the phone screen should predict on-site success. On-site success should predict onboarding success. Onboarding success will predict future, you know, long-term, you know, stickiness success. And so like, if your infrastructure isn't set up to prove that in some way, shape, or form, then it's probably not going to work.
I loved that example there around the salary data. We released this free salary data tool a couple of months ago, and it just went crazy viral. It's had hundreds of thousands of people use it now, and all they have to do is type in a job title, a location, click go, and then Lisa, our AI agent, will instantly scan LinkedIn and the web, look at hundreds of the most recently posted job adverts, and give you instant real-time data, kind of showing you who's paying what the trends are. And we just gave it away for free. We just said, look, if this could be valuable, then go for it. And I can't tell you how many emails I've been given from candidates who it's helped them get a pay rise, or from employers who it's helped them like save months of work because they haven't gone to market with some salary range that was decided 4 years ago before the whole AI boom happened. And you're right, some of these salaries matter crazy. And if you're not getting real-time data to understand that, then you're going out there to the market without a gun. You've got a knife. Everybody else has got a machine gun.
Yeah. Well, I haven't gotten here yet. Sorry, I was just
go on, Matt. You're all right.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I haven't got there yet. Like this is kind of the next thing for me because I've had this thing for 15 years I've been building, which is like to hire externally, you need to know internally what good actually is. Yes. Now, a lot of times that's a finger in the air rubric. A lot of times that's like a leader says, this is what I like. This is the rubric I want to go against. But you can test that, probably has a high degree of success. But like, how do you have a higher degree of success? Like not 100% because you can never have 100%, but how do you get that as close to 100%? And so, I think the next step is like then using HRIS, like MCPing or, tooling into your HRIS, and then again, scraping that information back, comparing that against your hiring rubric. And again, it's a relatively easy co-work skill to set up. Like it's not rocket science. Like actually, to your point, you just ask Claude, how do you set the skill up, with prompted information. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, you got the skill set. So now you're looking at your high performance reviews. You're comparing those performance reviews against the candidates that are coming in, right? Through let's call it a back office, an AI-driven back office talent review process, right? So now you're having persona-based hiring. Imagine if you are able to plug that MCP into the KPI portal, like HubSpot or like an engineering tool, where now you're pulling in, what the highest performers are doing productivity-wise. Now you're comparing that, again, and that intake that you're doing, that's coming down into your initial phone screen of like, this is the expectations. Are you okay with this, right? So like now from not just, you're not trying to hire against a competency framework, because Microsoft's CPO just came out the other day saying like skills and competency frameworks don't matter anymore. They don't. Collaboration, political acumen, those are important. AI adoption is important. Systems thinking is important. And so it's like, I think it's always about how do you create that replicatable machine that can produce and adapt while it's producing consistently without breaking. And I think that's the main thing that you should be able to solve with AI is like, how do you create that replicatable machine? Because if you don't have that, then you're always going to be like trying to band-aid things throughout your process. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Yeah.
No, that was cool. That was cool. I mean, I think you've got a very, very different like viewpoint of the recruitment industry to me, so I'm just like listening. I'm really enjoying this. To be honest. So I mean, what I was going to I can't even talk now. What I was about to say is just on that sort of salary piece and where you were going with that in terms of what we can do with that. So from a business development perspective for a recruitment agency, what I have found really interesting is in my own business, I've started doing this and I've seen it works, is just transparency, right? So if you're a hiring manager, you don't have any the only way you can realistically find out what the market is paying today is call a recruiter. That's the best way to do it right now. The problem you've got is, does that recruiter tell you the truth? You don't know. And that sounds so cynical, but it is also so true, because I know, like, I mean, I've been pitching for a role and the hiring manager said 70 and I've said, yeah, 60 to 70 is probably the mark for that role. I've got 4 or 5 in that mark. And the next guy that they've spoken to said 95. It's like, okay, well, that is a huge jump. And I've got candidates that are at 60 to 70 for what you've specifically asked for. Now, don't get me wrong, that could be down to ability to take a brief. That might not be market research that they've done. But odds are they probably fucking made it up. So this is where one of the things that Redson's trying to do is bring that. So we're integrating heavily with CRMs deliberately, is because the best, most up-to-date data on candidate salary, job salary, but not just salary, skill sets, live skill sets, what certifications are accessing higher pay grades, all that kind of stuff. That's sitting in thousands and thousands of recruitment agency CRMs doing nothing other than living in the consultant's head, who realistically has the last 10 calls that is memorized. They've not got the backlogs of data. So what we're literally doing is using all of that data that you've collected over years and years and years, put it as a marketing tool, slap it on the website. So if I've got a job, same as what you were doing, Alfie, to be honest, mate, but just with the recruitment agency's actual CRM data rather than pulling from here, there, and everywhere. So we will still pull from, you know, reliable, trusted sources just to say, is this good data or not? But mostly it's what's actually collected, what's actually screened. And if there's a gap, yes, we'll fill it with online data just so the agency doesn't look shite, make them feel a bit better about themselves. But generally, it's real candidates. So when you can analyze your CV, you can put up a job, throw in a JD, whatever you want to do on that recruitment agency's website. You haven't got to ring the consultant to find out, and you don't know if they're telling the truth or not. This is real data.
Yep.
And it's put right at the heart of how they go to market to say, okay, not only are we experts, but we can prove it. Just go on our website, throw this in, take a look. Even if you don't use us, here's some research for you, enjoy. And I think from one of the big problems that recruitment has had during my time in it anyway, is reputation. And reputation comes down to trust, generally. They don't trust. Candidates will have been burnt at some point by a bad recruiter. Hiring managers will have been burnt at some point by a bad recruiter, even if that's an internal recruiter. Like, it can happen. So giving them more trust metrics right up front, that AI is allowing us to do as well. That's not an easy thing to do, to take all those data points and make them usable. But that's the whole point of it, is building trust. And I think that's what AI, to sort of circle back to your point earlier on, Matt, is that's where it's going to get its biggest benefit, is we can spend more time building trust and less time on things we don't need to do.
I think that's a really good commercial angle, you know, but obviously being on the other side of the house, no offense. And I do like the commercial angle for some other ventures that, you know, I have.
Get a match going. This will be so fun.
No, but I have a commercial angle for this AI world as well. But, you know, also, I guess, putting on my, you know, recruiting leadership hat as well. You know, when you walk into an intake session with a manager, you're an individual recruiter. This could be agency, this could be internal. It doesn't really matter. But you go into your intake. Hey, I need to hire a solutions architect on this crazy AI thing that there's probably a very limited audience in the world on. Okay. So you walk in cold, you ask a bunch of questions, come back, go do your initial search, come back. Here's my short list. They're like, not even close. You rejig, you go back out to market, come back second time, a little bit closer. Some interviews start, still not there yet. Right. And so this is like recruitment in a nutshell for what, 25, 30 years now. And at least I can speak to 20 years of that. That's basically what it's been, you know. But, you know, now why would you do that? You know, you got a database, you know, whether you're an agency or whether you're in-house, about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of candidates. You just do. There's even the basic ideology of a tool. I don't know, like Team Taylor. I think Ashby has similar capabilities where as soon as you upload job description, it'll troll your ATS to say, hey, here's some relevant candidates, right? And so then imagine if you have an AI screener that's already reached out to them, right? Because you just got the job description for HR, you set the meeting up, it's Monday, the meeting's on Friday with the hiring manager. So now your AI screener has gone and done an initial screen, confirmed interest, confirmed salary, you know, confirm the basics around the job description, right? Now you're going to this meeting with live candidates, live interested, qualified candidates, and you probably have compensation information to challenge whatever notion they're getting from HR compensation or comp. Well, now the conversation's different with that manager, right? And again, you can have an AI tool plugged in that's like literally telling you based upon the job description what questions to ask. So like now you're not thinking anymore. You're just focusing on that. Arden, you were saying this earlier, like the human relationship side of things. And that's really where our trade's going. Is it's no longer about finding people. It's no longer about closing people. It's actually just about being good at building relationships. And like, you know, to build those relationships, it has to be basis of trust. And so now you have the data to start that conversation of trust. And that you can do this today already with the tools that are available. You can already do what I'm talking about. This isn't some pipe dream. You have Team Taylor, you have Tenzo AI. Just those tools alone, what I just described to you, you could do today. So you're showing up to a meeting with the right information to then actually reduce the time to success. And so then, and also with AI doing the figuring out and the thinking for you, your accuracy is higher. So now you're predicting success out of the gate, out of the first conversation, you're able to predict success. And so I think people are just scared to start. And I think that's the biggest problem, like, because they're like, where do I start? Because there's so many places to start. It's just, figuring that part out is the most important thing. And again, let Claude do that for you. Like, don't do it yourself anymore. Like, you can assume based on the noise you hear, you can assume based on the recruiters, but like, what is the real problem? Like, is it your process is too long or too challenging? Or is it that like your infrastructure just doesn't work for them? It's working against them. And like, okay, if that's the case, then like, okay, start at applications, end with offers, and figure out where you need to plug things in at each of those stages. Because like what you just said about trust, man, like if you come in cold nowadays, managers are just like, it's just like a waste of, I could have sent a Slack and given you all those details, which now happens most days. And intakes on Slack, they're like, here's a job description. This is what I think I need. Go do it. And recruiters take that and run. And it's like, that's crazy, man. Like, because now you don't have the relationship. You haven't asked the right questions. You haven't like built the quorum with them. And so, yeah, I mean, and again, I know maybe I put commercial versus in-house, but in reality, I think that's just the game, or should be the game. Now. If you're sharp, that's how we start merging human and machine. Is like, let's let them do the quant work for us, so that we're no longer the quant. We don't have to sell. We don't have to sell anymore. It's an Amazon style clinically dispassionate analysis by a system that's going to be 1,000 times more accurate than a human just will.
Yeah, but I feel like the last job remaining will be the relationship builder, who can manage agents to do a lot of that work that you talked about there, Matt. So yeah, good to get those sides of the perspective. I'm cautious we're almost at time. Adon, any closing comments, anything that you want to add? Perhaps if people should be using an AI tool, with the exception of what you're building, is there anything else, that perhaps they should check out? If they're a complete beginner, like you guys are, top 5, top 1% of I guess talent people that are actually using this stuff. The average person listening, they've tried ChatGPT once a year ago. So what should they actually be using? If there's anything that you could add.
Yeah, Atlas or Loxo CRM. If you're an agency owner, something that is, I think there's another one called Spot, but I've not demoed it, so I couldn't speak honestly about it. But Atlas and Loxo, very AI driven, very, very intrinsically designed to minimize your workflow. So start there. If you're starting a new agency tomorrow, or if you've got an agency that you're just thinking, I need to revolutionize it, start there. Get a call, a VoIP that records your calls. And then after that, world's your oyster, because you'll see what they automate, and you'll think, oh wow, that's saved this time. And then your own internal mechanisms will go, oh, what about that? And then you jump onto Claude Cowork. I don't think there's anything else that's as good for just what AI is kind of designed to do, which is just saving time.
Sure.
Other than that, have fun.
It'll all be different because it's changing so quickly. But as of right now, if you're listening to this in 2026, I'd agree. There's a great tools. Atlas, if you're a recruiting agency owner, is fantastic. I don't know Jordan personally, the founder, but his content is excellent.
He's nuts. I've had a few meetings with him. He's such a lovely guy. He gave me the idea for Red Sun, funny enough. But he's not getting any equity for that, in case he hears this. But yeah, good guy. Good guy.
I tried, but ideas are worthless. It's the execution that matters.
This is it.
Matt, any closing comments? Is there anything from the other side that perhaps you could recommend other people in talent and internal to use?
I mean, look, if you're a recruiter, you're not making decision on tools. It is what it is. Even if you're in leadership, you might be locked into a 3-year contract with Greenhouse or somebody, and like now you can't move, right? So like I think a lot of what we talked about means you have a lot of degree of flexibility in your system. So I would 100% resonate. Open up Claude Cowork, get the MCP servers built. There's a ton of information on LinkedIn with a lot of people out there that have posted like really good talk tracks. Mike Brown He's based in Boston. He's a great resource for a lot of that stuff because he's gone and done all this building already. So, and he just posted for free on his LinkedIn. So go check him out. And so like that'll give you access to go figure out how to connect your co-work to your ATS, and then just start asking the questions, random stupid questions, and like just let it come back with the details. And then, again, then start looking at what can natively plug into your system. Again, video screening tools are great, like Tenzo AI. Like obviously every company in the world's used HackerRank, but a lot of people don't know that they also have AI video screening for technical screens, with some really interesting features coming up for that, for like really deep testing, very up funnel deep testing of engineers. Complete AI has got great tools for, the compensation part of the process. And then you get tools like Headcount 365 or Team Ohana that are going to do really good work for you when it comes to workforce planning and actually providing strong capacity planning for the recruitment team, which takes away those stupid spreadsheets that all of us recruiting leaders have been doing for years. And so I think the main point is, if you're in my type of role out there, start taking the calls from those AI vendors, because you need to figure out like what you like, what works with how your brain operates, what your vision is. We all have slightly different visions. And so just start taking the calls and start getting ingratiated in the community. Like, it's going to be the best way to learn right now, because you don't want to be here 2 years from now. You haven't taken the calls and then you're behind and now you're no longer industry relevant. So start taking the calls. So a couple half hours a week to just do a few demos isn't going to kill you. And in fact, if anything, it will give you some ideas of how you can move the needle on things.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for your ideas, insights, contributions. I hope this was useful for people listening. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Hit follow, hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I will see you in the next episode.
Introducing Lisa, the world's first AI-powered recruiter. She's an AI agent who works 24/7, screening candidates on autopilot, conducting interviews in 30 different languages, uploading all the best candidates to your applicant tracking system. Hire 10 times faster at 90% lower cost and significantly improve the candidate experience. Visit welovealpha.com to start your free trial now.